Okay, it's live now.
ठीक अच्छे आम आरंभ करवा। हरि ओम समस्त को नमस्कार। आम सांगे आज अच्छा श्री अनुप नायक कैलिफोर्निया रु आम जोड़े भजन सहित आम कार्यक्रम आज आरंभ करवा। अनुप प्लीज। अनुप यू आर ऑन म्यूट।
नमस्कार। Got it. मु स्टार्ट करी गोटे श्लोक रु ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवा, देन आई विल सिंग ए भजन फॉर योर लॉर्ड जगन्नाथ। ओके। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। गोविन्दं गोकुलानन्दं गोपालं गोपीवल्लभं। गोविन्दं गोकुलानन्दं गोपालं गोपीवल्लभं। गोवर्धनुधरं वीरं गोवर्धनं धरुं वीरं तं वन्दे गोमती प्रियं। तं वन्दे गोमती प्रियम्। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं निराकारं नरवीरं नरोत्तमं। नारायणं नराकारं नरवीरं नरोत्तमं। नरसिंहं नागनाथं नरसिंहं नागनाथं तं वन्दे नरकाण्टकं। तं वन्दे नरकाण्टकम्। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। पीताम्बरं पद्मनाभं पद्माख्यं पुरुषोत्तमं। पीताम्बरं पद्मनाभं पद्माख्यं पुरुषोत्तमं। पवित्रं परमानन्दं पवित्रं परमानन्दं तं वन्दे परमेश्वरं। तं वन्दे परमेश्वरम्। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ भगवते वासुदेवाय। मुरारिं माधवं मच्चं मुकुन्दं मुष्टिमर्दनं। मुरारिं माधवं मच्चं मुकुन्दं मुष्टिमर्दनं। मुञ्जकेशं महाबाहुं मुञ्जकेशं महाबाहुं तं वन्दे मधुसूदनं। तं वन्दे मधुसूदनम्। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Okay. Thank you. Now I'll sing a bhajan for Lord Jagannath. Is audio audible?
It is. Khali left रे आसुची.
চকানয়নকু পতিত কেহি থকাই খর নিশ্বাস পকাই ডকা পকাই গরুড় পছরে ডকারি মোয়ার্ত শুণ সতরে ডকা বাজুছি মহিমা হে ডকা বাজুছি মহিমা ডকার করি কর্ণে গির ন শুণ কাহিকি বিচিত্র কর্ম হে কাহিকি বিচিত্র কর্ম হরি হরিণী দ্রৌপদী বিপতি হরি হরি ছ পরাডেরি স্মৃতি দরিদ্র সুদামা কুকোটি নিধি পরিপূর্ণে দেল কৃপাবারিধি হে ধরি যা মহিমা চিত্তে হে ধরি যা মহিমা চিত্তে সরিত যাউছি হরি আউ থরে ন চাহিল কৃপা নেত্রে ন চাহিল কৃপা নেত্রে ସୁନ୍ଦର ଧର ନୀଳଗିରି ବାସୀ କନ୍ଦର ବାସୀ ପ୍ରାୟ ଅଛ ବସି ପନ୍ଦର ନେତ୍ର ଧାତା ପୁରନ୍ଦର ବନ୍ଦନ କରନ୍ତି ଯେଉଁ ପୟର ହେ ଛନ୍ଦ ଛାଡ଼ ଦେବ ରାଜେ ছন্দ ছাড় দে বরাজে নন্দ নন্দন শ্রী চরণার বিন্দে চন্দন হজুরি ভজে চন্দন হজুরি ভজে চন্দন হজুরি ভজে চন্দন হজুরি ভজে
नमस्कार, धन्यवाद धन्यवाद अनूप, बहुत सुंदर, very beautiful. Thanks a lot for this melodious bhajan to begin this morning in a spiritual and devotional atmosphere. Thank you so much on behalf of all who have assembled here. Hari Om. Dear friends, we have assembled here today to listen from Prabhrajika Dibyananda Prana Mataji. The topic of today's discussion is staying centered amidst modern day clutter. May I request Sri Jogesh Panda to formally welcome Mataji with an introduction.
Pranam Mataji, welcome to OSA's Spiritual Forum. We are very honored and privileged to have Prabhrajika Dibyananda Prana Mataji amongst us today to offer some Yoga Vedantic insights on how to stay centered amidst the modern day clutter. I think everyone here can relate to the problem and a need for solutions. Prabhrajika Dibyananda Prana is a monastic member of Sri Sarada Matha, New Delhi. She was initiated into sannyas by Swami Ranganathanandaji Maharaj in 2007. She is a world-renowned expert in the areas of Yoga Vedanta. In addition to thoroughly studying the Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature, she has extensively studied the Yoga Vedanta texts based on these twin philosophies, including Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Raja Yoga, Upanishads, and the Prakarana Granthas. Those are auxiliary scriptures of Vedanta, like Vedanta Sara, Vivek Chudamani, etc., along with their commentaries. Her areas of interest also include the Brahma Sutras with Sankara's commentary, works of Ramana Maharshi, and the Bhagavad Gita. Mataji has the unique combination of knowledge in the conventional sciences and traditional yogic and Vedantic texts. She was principal of Nivedita Vidyamandir School from 2014 through 2019 and is currently the editor of the English journal Sambit, published from New Delhi. Mataji has been lecturing all over India since 2010, which include the prestigious educational institutions such as IITs, IISc Bangalore, Delhi University, and many other institutions. She offers courses on Yoga Vedanta every semester at IIT Delhi. The courses are available on YouTube at IIT's official channel, NRC VEE, IIT Delhi. Apart from her engagements in India, she has extensively traveled internationally to hold classes or deliver lectures, including at several prestigious universities in the United States, Canada, Europe, and South Africa. During her most recent visit to the United States earlier this year, she delivered lectures on science of happiness at Princeton, North Carolina State University, Duke University, Seton Hall University, MIT, Carnegie Mellon University, and University of Michigan. Mataji is also the author of 2 books titled Science of Happiness and Self-Discovery. These books are available at Amazon. With that, I welcome Mataji again to Orissa Society of the Americas Spiritual Forum, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jogesh, for introducing Mataji to all of us. Before we start the discourse, just allow me to state a few house rules. This talk will be for about 45 to 50 minutes, and that will be followed by question and answer. We request you, please do not ask questions during the discourse. However, feel free to type your questions in the chat box. Our volunteers will collect them, and we'll place your written questions with our guest speaker at the end of the talk. After the talk, you may also raise a hand in the Zoom and you will get your turn to ask a question. But please be brief while asking your questions to our speaker. Last but not the least, may we request you to kindly turn on your webcam and mute the mic. Thank you so much. Mataji, please.
Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes. Yes, you are. Yes.
Yes. So I heard such melodious bhajans just now. The topic you have given me, how to remain centered. See, it is only by spiritual practices like these that you can remain centered. So thank you to Nayarji for those beautiful bhajans. We know only this way, how to remain centered in the midst of all the clutter in our lives. It is only by, fixing your attention at the heart, by being devoted to something transcendental, by being devoted to God, that you can remain centered in the midst of all the clutter of modern life. If you do a little some kind of spiritual practice, whether it is japa or meditation or this devotional singing, puja, whatever, anything you do, you will quickly understand that there is a way of becoming very centered. It's not about being self-centered. It is about being deeply attentive to a deeper dimension of our life. That is the meaning of being centered. And modern life has so many distractions. So unless we learn to remain centered, you will not remain fixed on the great goals of human life. All of you are sadhaks, I know it very well, because you have formed a spiritual organization. It is so important to keep the inner fire, the inner flame burning in the midst of our jobs, in the midst of our families, in the midst of everything. How to keep it burning? We will just discuss a few points on this. Actually, my laptop is not working. I don't know. So I'm having to use this phone. But at least the connection is there. I'm at a very remote place in the Himalayas, actually. And here connection does falter. But today the connection is there, but the laptop is not connecting. So anyway, let us now only dwell on how to keep the mind centered on God, on spiritual practice in the midst of our everyday lives. This is the most important thing. So for us to get this deep inner attention, it is important to keep the mind focused. It is important to keep the mind concentrated on our goal. Now, to keep our mind focused or concentrated on our goal, it is important to develop devotion. It is important to keep the mind pure and clear. Then only it will understand the higher goal of human life and constantly remain riveted to it. So you see, these are all connected things. Usually when we speak of mind management, we don't go so deep into it, but your forum is different. It is about spiritual life and spiritual striving. So here I can tell you the actual secret of remaining centered is to develop devotion to God. It is to develop mind management through devotion to God. If you give your mind to God, automatically you can manage it. In today's secular world, it is so difficult to say this to people, but this is the open truth, open secret. If you remain devoted to God, you will be able to manage your thought, your emotion, and your will, because you have found a higher, greater purpose in life, a more fulfilling purpose. So first, most important thing to remaining centered is developing devotion to God, developing bhakti. Without this, you cannot proceed. If there is bhakti, there will be a taste for spiritual practice. If there is bhakti, there will be a taste for spiritual practice, which means that ruchi, every day you sit with gusto, you sit with a lot of joy, because you know you are going to get something out of it. This feeling for sadhana, this is very, very important. To remain centered in life, in the spiritual life, it is important to develop the inner life of bhakti. And as a result, you will naturally remain centered. Because what do we do when we do spiritual practice? For those of you who actually do upasana and are following some technique, you will understand this very well. We concentrate on the heart. We concentrate on the heart center and repeat our mantra there. We imagine the deity there. So you see, concentrating on the heart itself means the heart is called Hriday, isn't it? Hriday means Riddhi Ayam, the center of your being. So when you concentrate attention there, you are lifting vitality to the heart center. So this itself will bring you high powers of attention. This itself will declutter the mind from unnecessary things and maintain your focus. This is such a magical technique, just paying attention to your heart center. For those of you who are more interested in this, there are books on this. The Philokalia is actually a compendium of knowledge on this kind of technique. And The Way of the Pilgrim, I can suggest this book. It's a small book, but very profound, deep with this knowledge. This is such a magical technique to remain centered and free from distractions. All you have to do is enter the space of the heart through a spiritual technique, and then you will remain riveted. You will naturally remain concentrated. All sadhaks know this. They develop this technique. Whether you're walking or interacting or sitting or whatever you are doing, you remain centered within yourself. You have found your center of gravity. So you will not drift easily. You will not get distracted easily. You will remain with very effective focus at all times. So this is a perfect possibility if you practice spiritual discipline. Otherwise, anything can distract you. Anything can flit your attention. So that kind of mind is not going to take us anywhere. We realize this very well today. And that is why, they are integrating spirituality so much even in business B schools, so much in universities. The reason I'm working with so many universities is only for this. They are asking for the essentials of yoga and Vedanta to enter into academics, so as to become understandable and so that they can integrate it into a scientific format and present it to the modern mind. So this is a very important technique. Japa, meditation, all of this is essentially concentration on the heart center so that your energies function at a particular level, so that your attention remains fixed. You know, you have to study the life of great realized people to understand the value of this technique. Because you are a spiritual forum, I'm going to talk only about the inner spiritual life. I did not want to speak merely about some mind management or emotional intelligence or anything like that. The fundamental nature of a spiritual technique is it keeps your attention riveted at the heart center. When you pay enough attention to it for a long time, the heart center opens. In the sense, you will enter into the consciousness of the object of your meditation. So in these states, you naturally have a decluttered mind. Your mind is naturally utterly focused on the goal. So these are very powerful spiritual techniques. Even one such episode where you are absorbed in the object of your meditation, it will teach you volumes about the nature of your mind, the psychology of the entire thing, of concentration, what we call yoga psychology today. All that will just open its secrets to you if you develop a spiritual technique within yourself. You will yourself see how scientifically it has all been presented in our spiritual heritage. There is a very beautiful Zen story, which I can tell you here to help you understand. See, decluttering mind or bringing the mind into a level of focus is not a very difficult task. It is not an impossible task. It may appear like that for those who don't practice spiritual discipline. But for those who are into sadhana, they understand that it is one of the fundamental functions of your mind to remain concentrated on one particular thing, to remain concentrated on your goal, spiritual goal. So let me tell you this story here to illustrate this point. You know, there was one Zen master who was very well known as a man of realization. So one day, one professor came to him and he came there to learn Zen. And he told this master that I have heard so much about you. I want to learn Zen. Please teach me. Then the Zen master looked at him and saw how inattentive he was, how absolutely distracted he was, cluttered with 1,000 things running in his head, because he's a big professor of a big university, always thinking of so many things at once, so many tracks running in the mind. He could clearly see that on his face. And so he said, well, let's have a cup of tea first. And then he ordered some tea. The tea came. They were sitting in the monastery of the Zen master. So the students bought the tea and placed it on the table. There were 2 cups and 1 kettle of tea. And then the Zen master took the kettle and started pouring it into 1 cup. He poured and poured until it overflowed the cup. And the saucer also started overflowing. And finally, the table would also overflow with tea. And then the professor cried out, please stop. What are you doing? Please see, the whole thing is overflowing. The cup has overflowed. The saucer has overflowed. So why are you still pouring tea? And then the Zen master said, you see, I'm just demonstrating the state of your mind. How can I pour tea when it is already overflowing? The state of your mind is overflowing with thoughts. So I can't pour anything. You can only pour into an empty cup, isn't it? So you see, remaining centered in your being essentially means emptying mind and building focus towards the inner life. Decluttering the mind, unnecessary things, overthinking, unnecessary thought, worries, fears, and all kinds of negativities in our minds. These are the things which take away the energy of the mind. What we are calling mind is nothing but the highest expression of your vital energy. If you waste it on unnecessary things like this, you see the cup is already overflowing. How can you pour Zen into it? How can you pour anything more into it. So the Zen master said this, your mind is overflowing like that cup of tea. How can I pour Zen? How can I pour what we call Tattva Jnana into it? So the first thing to do to centering your mind is bringing your mind into a state of uncluttered awareness. This only becomes possible through spiritual practice. Some amount of steadiness in sadhana is required for this to practically happen, which means concentration on the spiritual goal at the heart center for a long period of time is required. Actually speaking, to remain deeply centered in your own being, this is very much required. You read the life of Swami Vivekananda, you will understand how he could achieve so much because he was deeply centered within himself. This was characteristic of Swamiji's personality. Whoever saw him felt it was like the Buddha walking before them, deeply centered in his own being. So without this capacity, this kind of achievement, this kind of impact does not come. So even if you're just aiming at success in life, some amount of spiritual growth is required. In Swamiji's life, you can see clearly what it means to remain centered in our own being. His focus and awareness were so steady that whatever Swamiji saw, whatever Swamiji thought of, would absorb his being. This was very characteristic of Vivekananda right from childhood. If you read his exhaustive life, you will find he had immense powers of focus and concentration. Immense powers, almost superhuman. I can tell you some incidents in his life. Once he was in Meerut, and in Meerut, see, this incident is very illustrative. It is not many times discussed, but it has some very important points in it. So Swamiji was in Meerut, and one of his brother disciples was with him. And Swamiji would ask for books from the local library there. So his brother disciple would go and collect. One day he collected a volume. Swamiji was then reading John Lubbock's works. So he collected the first volume and brought and gave it to Swamiji. The next day, Swamiji returned it and told him, get the second volume. So when he went to return it, the librarian said, one volume in a day. Who can read like this? And then the third day, he's asking for the third volume. So like this, for many days, Swamiji asked for a new volume each day. So one day the librarian got fed up and he commented that, nobody can, I'm sure he's not reading it actually. Nobody can do this, read one volume a day. And Swamiji was amused when he heard this. And one day he was strolling that way towards the library, and he entered the library and met the librarian. And he said, I do indeed read one volume a day, and you can test my knowledge. And the librarian randomly asked him questions from this volume and that volume. And Swamiji gave impeccable answers, the exact answer, even quoted verbatim from the book. How is this possible? See, such an immense capacity to absorb knowledge in so short a time, which means unflickering attention, unflinching mind, absolute attention, like a sponge, it is absorbing whatever he wants to absorb. Then the librarian asked him, this is very superhuman. Tell me, how do you do it? And then Swamiji said, this is a capacity of the human mind which comes through purity of life. If you see how a child picks up language, you see first when he learns ABC, A for apple, he has to spell out A-P-P-L-E and then grasp that word. Gradually, he gets the capacity to grasp words. Now he has to grasp an entire sentence. As his concentration builds up, he is able to grasp the meaning of not just one sentence, but a paragraph itself, just by looking at it. And as his concentration further builds up, and he can put things in context quickly, he can grasp an entire page quite quickly, isn't it? those who have good reading habits, they can just go through a page and absorb its contents. Swamiji said, I can do this with books. Whole books, like a sponge which absorbs water. Swamiji could readily absorb all information in that book perfectly, the entire data entering into his mind and remaining in his memory. And Swamiji said, this is the capacity of the human mind. Every human mind can do it. All that is required is intense power of concentration, attention, unflickering attention, and purity of mind. So you see, being centered means functioning at this level, this capacity of mind, this capacity of our intellect, this capacity of our attention is possible. All the powers of the world yield before a mind which is centered, which has touched the self. You know, in Vedanta, it is very beautifully put. What is the center of our being? It is the Atman, the self. A mind which is not in touch with that self will remain distracted, will remain outward bound. But a mind which has found its source in the self, which is in touch with the self, becomes prajnavan. That mind becomes luminous. That mind becomes intense with the power of the self. That mind becomes capable of everything. That mind becomes powerful. And that mind gets this capacity to absorb things just like that. Because it is in touch with its source. It is in touch with a pure awareness. It will remain intensely aware. So this kind of mind is a very powerful instrument in your hands. Remaining centered in our true being will give us these capacities, will help us live life fully, will help us achieve whatever we want to achieve in life. You must remember, the impact of any personality comes from the development of his mind. If the mind is kept undeveloped and still you are trying to make a difference, trying to make an impact, it will not work. The essential thing is the mind which is in touch with its source gets unique capacities because it is in touch with its source. This is described in so many ways in our scriptures, isn't it? In the Bhagavad Gita, it is described that the home of the mind is in the heart. The method of concentration in the Bhagavad Gita also speaks of this, that if you put your mind in your heart, you will remain centered in your being. You will get in touch with your soul. So you see, it is an open secret. It is put in so many places in the Upanishads, in so many ways. They will describe Hridi, Nishitam Guhayam, and stay in the heart, remain in the heart. Such expressions you will find. For this simple reason, that is the home of your attention. Where are you placing it? Either you place it on objects or on something fleeting or somewhere else. No. The home of your attention, of your mind, is the heart. If you learn to place it there, you will see by yourself, you become more and more intensely conscious, deeply conscious and aware, and with unflickering attention. So this is a tremendous capacity of the human mind. This technique may appear mystical and esoteric, but you gave me such a topic, so I'm telling you, it is the most powerful technique for self-development. To remain centered in our being, the clutter of the world remains outside your mind. Deep within yourself, you are totally balanced. You are totally at home with the source of your being. And you radiate the power of your soul through your mind-body apparatus. This will be the condition. Look at the life of Vivekananda, the life of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi. They radiated this level of understanding, knowledge, power, love, humility, and that is the whole point. If we adopt a spiritual technique, we will naturally come to this. Otherwise, endlessly you can keep arguing. Is the mind in the brain, Is the consciousness in the brain? Is it epiphenomenon of the brain? You can go into all these arguments. This is all going on in consciousness studies in different philosophies. In fact, philosophy is working on thought constructs. But when we adopt a spiritual technique, you enter the realm of spirituality, you leave philosophy behind. It is not now you're working merely with thought constructs. You are entering into the heart of reality. And that comes through a spiritual technique. So if you want to remain centered in your being, take up some spiritual practice. This is what I would say. Because fundamentally, you are spiritual people. Your aim is spiritual. You have created a spiritual organization in the United States, and you're functioning through it. So adopt a spiritual technique, intensify it within yourself, and concentrate and awaken the heart center. And you will yourself realize all that there is to know. It is so simple. So with this, I would like to end my talk and take up question answers, because questions on these things are more important than just a linear lecture. So let us discuss this as per your queries. So I will end my talk here. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Dhanyavad Mataji. It was really a profound talk. And the way I could gather things is basically, as members of the spiritual forum, we are all involved in, studying various things, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, etc., all kinds of philosophies. But the crux of the matter, as you pointed out, I understand, I took it from here, is essence is practice, practice, practice. Start some spiritual practice, and that will keep someone centered amidst all this modern day clutter.
Correct.
Thank you so much. This is such a nice learning lesson for all of us. With that, I request our members to raise your hand in the Zoom chat if you want to ask a question. I have a question. I will just roll it out first. Mataji, so this is something that you told for our members, those who are kind of grown up. I'm sure many of us have some kind of spiritual practice that they have woven into their modern day life. Yeah. My question is about mostly our children, our next generation, and while they are growing up here in United States, they are exposed to all these kind of. You definitely understand, like you have been here so many times, that there are so many distractions. How can we really help our children? And most of the time, whatever we say, they think that, okay, dad is very old-fashioned and things like that.
Yes.
So your help on this, madam.
Yeah. Why just the United States? The same is happening in India also. I can give you
universal problem.
It's a universal problem. In fact, a whole lot of parents do approach me with this problem, that how can we bring our children into some form of spiritual discipline. So see, I'll just tell you two general points. You have to find out how it will be applicable in your particular cases. One point is children are definitely affected by what you do at home. Not what you say, but what you do at home. So if in your homes you install some kind of a spiritual discipline, like usually in Indian homes there was this tradition of puja, and at least you gather once a day for an aarti or a reading at night. Some such discipline used to be there. So see if you can bring some such format into your homes on an everyday basis. At least attending the aarti every day for 5 minutes, morning or evening, preferably both times. And ending the day with a one or two verses of Bhagavad Gita or a paragraph from Gospel of. If you can do it together, this thing as a family, it has a huge impact on the next generation. Tomorrow, when they grow up, this is the only thing they will be remembering. See, my parents did this, so it is important. Today, they may laugh at you, but tomorrow the impact is so huge that children become very sensitive to this after they grow up. So somehow see that this kind of a sanskar falls on them. Even if they don't attend, they refuse to attend. See, this is the problem. Now, after 12, you can't tell anybody to do what you want them to do. So even if they don't want to attend, let them see that you are doing it regularly. This itself has a big impact. And the second point which I would like to mention is, see, there's an organization called Vivekananda Vidyapeeth. In New Jersey, I visited that organization a few times. Over the weekend, they are teaching 400 students with Hindu background, everything about Hinduism. So beautifully, you know, they have their own textbooks for every grade. They have a textbook, and over a period of 4 or 5 years, children get a very good grip of what they should know about Hinduism, what they should know about spiritual practice. They have a very clear idea. So if you can institute some such, learning mechanism for your children, wherever you are situated, I think that will help them in their spiritual growth. At least some level of exposure to scriptures, to their traditions. This is important, because, you know, tomorrow everybody at some point in his life will hunger for spiritual growth. So that time they will be able to relate. Oh, we had heard of this, and this is important in life. They'll be able to relate like that. But bringing up children in a completely secular atmosphere, where there's no touch of this kind of tradition, this is really, it's the main modern problem, and the cause for a lot of youth problems and emotional insecurities in youth. So bring some amount of this into your home, and see if you can impart some level of spiritual knowledge through weekend classes or something like that to your children. This is what I would suggest. 2 things.
Yes, Mataji. 2 things. One is to start a spiritual practice at home, preferably in the morning and in the evening. The second thing is weekend classes for our children.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can borrow the syllabus from Vivekananda Vidyapeeth also. You can ask them. It's situated in New Jersey, and they are doing it so well. I was very impressed when I went there, actually. Yes, training 400 children.
Is it a regular school? Of course, I have never heard about them, though.
It's a weekend schools kind of thing.
Okay. Some kind of Sunday school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It will be a very good idea. We'll try to stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question. The question is by Bibhu. He asked, Pranam Mataji, how do we practice consistency in devotion? Consistency in devotion.
So beautiful. See, the question itself is so beautiful. You will practice consistency in devotion if you feel this longing and need for it. So you are already feeling it. That is why the question is coming. See, to have the consistent bhakti bhav, the vrittis of our mind should become like that, isn't it? Essentially, let me give you some information on how the mind functions. See, whatever we think is called vritti jnana. All your thinking, all your knowledge is born of thinking, and that is of the nature of the modifications of your mind. Vrittis, they are called. Now, to the extent that these vrittis are elevated and concerning the Lord, concerning your devotional practice, to that extent, you will have the pravritti towards bhakti. Are you getting my point? The modifications of the mind, which relate to the Lord, which relate to spiritual life and practice, if these types of vrittis are allowed to flourish in the mind on an everyday basis, bhakti will grow. Usually, what occupies our mind? It's the current affairs, isn't it? What is happening in the family, what's happening in the country, the geopolitics of your nation, all this occupy your mind. But here I'm telling you, if you increase the bhakti vrittis of your mind, bhakti will automatically grow. So for that, investment into devotional practice is required. Investment into devotional practice in whatever way you can, as much time as you can give. Every day giving some time and energy to devotional practice. If this is done, I can assure you bhakti will grow. You can grow in bhakti. Bhakti will grow every day if you invest time and energy into it. Whatever you invest time and energy into, that grows, isn't it? So bhakti also is like that. You give it proper time, some time, and it will grow. So try this out and see.
So that's very, very well explained, Mataji. Probably, well, what you said is so absolutely clear. Probably it is so happening that, all the current affairs, like you mentioned, are all coming from external sources. And external
Yes.
sources are riding over the priority of bhakti vritti, which had to come from internal.
Correct.
So when external
Correct.
thing is riding over internal, we have to basically fix our priorities. Whether internal is top priority or external is top
Exactly. Exactly. See, you should think like this, that once you have provided well for yourself and your family, what should be your top priority? Tell me.
So well said. So well said.
Once you have done your duty, you have provided well for yourself, your family, your survival needs are well taken care of. You have a good job, you're earning well. Then the next priority should be my inner life should develop. So I must invest into devotional practice. This is very important. Invest means what? Invest time, invest energy, invest your bhav. Isn't it? So on an everyday basis, spiritual practice, that is why, you see, whatever you let go, you must never let go of spiritual practice. It will teach you every day how to proceed. All the knowledge which I speak of, it is all born of sadhana. Without sadhana, you will never know anything firsthand. So make spiritual practice part of your life. You people are perfectly capable of it, because when I heard that bhajan, I immediately felt that it is such a devotional group. So naturally, this comes naturally to you. Now you make it sarthak, make life really worthwhile by investing into spiritual practice. This is what I would say.
Thank you, Mataji. There is a follow-up from one of our mothers here present, Prachi Behra. She asks, major part of household chores fall on women. Modern life has added professional work without really taking away any of women's duty towards family and home. Daily activities, work, commute, kids, keep our mind occupied. How do we make room in the mind for spiritual devotion?
See, spiritual devotion means development of a bhav. Bhav has no English equivalent, so I really don't know how to express it. Developing a deep devotional sentiment, it includes much more than that. Bhav means a total disposition, higher disposition. So this development has to be done in life. Then you relate according to that bhav with all the people around you. You can serve them thinking that God exists in them also. That very same God whom you are worshipping in the temple, in your shrine, that very same God exists in all beings. And so your family is nothing but an expression of that divine. So for that, first, this kind of a higher bhav has to be developed. If you see, what happens in life is many times we remain occupied with the duties of our life. But please understand, the very purpose of those duties is to evolve you spiritually, isn't it? So at some point in your life, you must try to intensify the inner life and develop this kind of a bhav, this kind of a higher inclination towards the devotional life, And then your service activities, whatever you have to do, will themselves become a yoga. You know, the same act, when it is done under compulsion or done as a duty, it may appear tasteless. It will appear insipid. But if it is done with love and as a spiritual practice, and like you're serving the divine, how you do in your puja room, like that, then it becomes a yoga. It becomes a means towards your inner transformation. So the Jamon Bhav Temni Labh, Thakur used to say. Thakur gives the ultimate, Sri Ramakrishna gives the ultimate truth about everything. So he used to say, Jamon Bhav Temni Labh. So if you develop this kind of an inner high bhav and then convert your everyday activities into service of the divine in everyone, it will become a yoga. It is no more, a duty. I'm bound to do it. It won't be like that then. So this is difficult. See, initially it really feels like, oh, some superhuman ability is required. But you will see it will become easy when your inner life becomes completely integrated. You become complete in yourself. Then whatever you do, the breakfast you are making for your family every day morning, into school, and you have to do so many things. You yourself have to rush to work. How you will see it, you are actually fueling the pran shakti in every jiva around you. Isn't it a great worship? Tell me. It is puja. So when you see it like that, do you feel like grumbling about it? It's a joy. It's a fulfillment in itself. So you see, work becomes service when you have a high bhav behind it. Work becomes a joy when you have invested your life into a great bhav, a great ideal. So then you will superimpose that ideal on everything and convert everything into a yoga. It will all work magically for you. So please try to do this. First, intensify the higher bhav within you, the higher sentiment. The purpose of your life is the realization of God. Everything else is a means to it. So with this idea, intensify your inner life and then superimpose that ideal on everything around you. Everything will become a yoga. This is what I would suggest.
Dhanyavad Mataji. The short takeaway from here, what I get is, if we think that we have to do work, commute, kids, and all the household chores, and then if I'm left with some time, I use that for developing the verb, that's not going to fly. Rather, we should develop the verb in the first place, bring yourself to a higher disposition, a higher sentiment. And with that, if you start the day, probably everything else will just go like a smooth flow whole day. So that's the take I will like.
One great aid to this is first 15 minutes of every morning, give it to God. Once you wake up, start your day with your spiritual ideal. So then all the activities of that day will tend to become spiritual.
Such a nice idea, ma'am. Satyanarayana Mataji. All right, let me take the next question. So this is a question from Akshay Ray. Mataji Pranam. I am told by my Guruji to focus on fontanelle, crown chakra always. You recommended to focus on heart center. What is the difference? Thank you.
See, the usual recommendation is always heart center. The crown chakra is told to jnanis or people who are advanced on the path of yoga, for whom knowledge is very obvious. So your concentration should be at the heart center. Please understand, I told you the heart is that center where everything comes together. It is not the physiological heart that we are speaking about. We are talking of the spiritual heart. It is a way of raising your pranic energy and opening the higher dimensions of your own being. If you right from the beginning focus on the Agnya or Sahasrar, it won't work. it won't work. In fact, for many people, especially people who don't lead a disciplined life, it won't work at all, because they will only try to develop intense concentration by knitting their eyebrows, and they won't be able to go beyond that. Holy Mother Shri Sharda Devi herself recommended that concentration should be practiced in the heart. And Thakur used to say, "Ota to danka mara jayega." It is a splendid place to concentrate, the heart center. And the heart is the heart of the devotee is the parlor of the Lord, he would say. And our scriptures also keep saying, so I would always say, concentrate on the heart. But if your guru has advised you otherwise, please ask him, find out from him and what the method should be, and please proceed that way.
Dhanyavad Mataji. Looks like your pointer towards heart is raising many questions. There is another question from Meera Pradhan. Pranam Mataji, you mentioned to concentrate on our heart. I am wondering, what is the difference between concentrating on our mind versus concentrating on our heart? Probably there is some confusion here.
Yes, see, the home of your mind is your heart, I told you. It's not your brain. You must find out the truth about this statement. Then all this confusion will go. Concentration is always done with the mind, but where? In the heart. Because the source of your mind itself is the heart. Now, when we make sentences like this, you try to find out if there's any truth in it. From where does your mind arise? From where does your eye sense arise? You only should find it out. You will see it arises from your heart. Your aham arises from there. Om is heard from there. So that is why Hridi Ayam Hridayam. It is the center of your being. But you have to discover it yourself. Don't believe in anyone or anything. Find out for yourself and see from where your eye sense arises, from where, when you meditate, where does your awareness arise? The higher awareness. You will see it is in the heart. So that is why I don't think mind is a different thing, heart is a different thing, brain is a different thing. Brain is nothing but like the hardware, but your mind is the software, and its locus is the heart. You function from your heart. So if you concentrate there, spiritual growth will be faster, quicker. You yourself will understand if you concentrate on the heart center.
Dhanyavad Mataji. A question from Satish. This is related to the kids, follow-up to the kids' question. Can we force the children to do when they are not willing also?
No, you shouldn't force, because they revolt. The thing is, subtle influence is more important than gross action. As I told you, create the ambience at home, create the atmosphere at home, which will affect their minds. But you can't actually force them to do spiritual things, and not at all to today's generation, because it won't work. All you can do it, you create the atmosphere, the ambience, and pray to God that their mind turns towards these things. When they watch you doing it, tomorrow they will recollect it. And it will inspire them from within that my father used to do this, my mother used to do this. So they will want to do it. It will happen like that.
Makes perfect sense, because whenever they are in a kind of emotional turbulence and they have no idea of where to go, at least they would remember, hey, my father used to do this. And
Yes,
this could be way out.
yes. Right.
So nice. Right. Next question is from Jogesh Panda. Reverend Mataji, there seemed to be some confusion out there on the location of heart again coming. Probably she has answered this. Heart space indicated in the scriptures. Is it he says, is it the tantric heart center between the Manipur and the Visuddhi, or is it behind the Agyan Chakra in the head space? It's a very technical question.
No, it is not the tantric heart center that we are speaking of. Because there what you're calling anahata is to do with there are junction points where you can concentrate vital energy. They are called chakras, and the anahata is the heart chakra. It is a kind of paradigm given for you for practicing concentration. But when I'm talking of the heart center, see, this is a purely Vedantic idea. After some time, even Vedanta talks of mystical things. This heart center that we are talking of, it is the space where your attention reveals the highest awareness. You will see at the point of that experience, where is it happening? It is happening at the heart center. That is why the Atman, they say, is hidden in the heart, in the cave of the heart, or it is in the lotus of the heart. They use such expressions in Vedanta. You will find even in the Kathopanishad, so many Upanishads, they have used the word, it is in the cave of the heart.
Yes.
Why have they used this word? And there are so many vidyas based on this. You might have heard of it, the Hara Vidya and all this. There are so many techniques based on this. So the reason is, see, we are not talking of the physiological heart. We are not talking of the heart as it is described in the Tantras, the Shat Chakra model. We are not talking of that. We are talking about that space within you from where your awareness emerges. How will you detect that space? So the technique given to you is concentrate at the heart center. You will see you will become rapt when you concentrate at the heart center. But this happens only if the heart center is kept active for a long time. See, if attention is kept at other centers, dissipated all over your system, that raptness will not come instantly. But with practice, as you gather and focus your attention at the heart center, you will see it is at the heart that your awareness unravels itself. So that is why they say the Atman is hidden in the heart. These are poetic expressions to show something very profound about you. Not that your awareness is in the heart center. You are that awareness, and hence you are the heart. I don't know how you will take this, but this is the fact about you.
Yeah. No, thank you, Mataji. That's exactly finally. I mean, when you say it kept referring to the heart center, then it's natural for somebody to wonder if it is somewhere actually, but it is
exactly.
It's actually nowhere. It is within. It's just the beingness or the
correct.
Yeah.
So with that, I have a question from Mr. Santosh Mahapatra. Probably you got the answer. He asked, Mataji, Pranam Mataji, can you please illuminate where the spiritual heart center is physiologically? And she very clearly mentioned that it is not a physiological heart center. It is the center of your awareness, and it is a poetic expression. And she has already gone over this answer. So I believe you got it.
Yeah, you will not find it in the Panchakoshas. No, you won't find it in your Annamaya Kosh or Pranamaya Kosh. So no point searching for it there. Nor is it in your Manomaya Kosh. In fact, your Manomaya Kosh is in it. Are you getting my point?
Now, probably you opened up another can of worms, like by telling the Panchakosha. If somebody is not aware about Panchakosha.
See, the Panchakosha model is the paradigm for human personality given in the Vedanta. So it's like a personality structure composed of Annamaya, Pranmaya, Manomaya, Vijnanmaya, and Anandamaya Kosh. Please remember, the understanding of Atman is beyond these 5 sheaths which you wear. The body, the prana, the mind, the intellect, and the bliss sheath. The Atman is beyond this. So the source of your being, the true heart, is quite beyond this. You will not find it in the physical body, nor in the Pranmaya Kosh, in the vital sheath, nor in the Manomaya Kosh. So where are you searching for it? Only a spiritual technique, intensely practiced, will reveal to you the seat of your awareness, from where it arises. And that is what is being called heart.
Right.
So really, we proceed from philosophy into mysticism, as we go, we try to describe this. So it's mystical language which we are using here, but you can only know this through sadhana, not through merely thinking.
So Mataji, basically when in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Sarvasya chaham hridisar nivista.
Exactly.
That exactly what he means is that I am situated at the center of your being.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the focus is to develop devotion for Bhagavan.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Meditate on him at the heart center and develop devotion there. You will know everything by yourself.
Mr. Akshay Rai asked a follow-up question. Probably he still. Then how do you concentrate and where? Please elaborate if possible.
Everyone is asking the same question.
You definitely struck a chord, Mataji, with so many of our listeners.
So where do you concentrate? See, concentration is meant for you to fix attention. That is why a process of concentration is given to you. But once you have already fixed attention on an object, then you can find out what is the source of your very attention process, which is your awareness. Now, when you try to find out the source of your awareness, you will automatically come to the heart. And you are trying to fix your concentration at the heart. You understand, through a process of inquiry, you can find out that it is only in the heart, from the heart, that awareness emerges. That awareness is verily me. That gets superimposed and identified with a thought process through which I am identifying with the body and a world of objects. Are you getting my point?
Yes, I think
Yes.
it's clear.
So the idea is this: the source of your very perception, the seat of your awareness is the heart. You are asked to concentrate on it just now because just now we don't know. It's not a first person experience. I just know it from books. So you are asked to concentrate on the heart center. Like, for example, if I have to know what is light, I will be asked to meditate on a flame. By that, I will enter into the knowledge of what that flame is, what light is. So like that, you are asked to concentrate on the heart, space of the heart. But the actual purpose of that concentration is to unravel the seat of your very awareness. So that's why that is also called the heart. So just practice concentration intensely and see, coupled with the other requirements. It's not just about concentration. I'm telling you, this is about raising vital energy. Then concentration will come just like that, so easily. So with a certain amount of purity in life, with commitment, concentrate with and develop devotion, all these truths which we consider mystical now will become normal and natural to the human mind. These are the great, profound truths about human life, which are only unraveled to the sadhak mind, not just to the thinker. This is the difference between a sadhak and a philosopher, a yogi and a philosopher. A philosopher thinks and tries to understand through the thought process, but a yogi finds his knowledge by stalling thought and becoming deeply aware from within. So it's a deeper dimension of knowledge that he unravels. Did it make sense?
It definitely makes sense, but we have to.
So, Manoj bhai, if I can ask one question related to the same.
Okay.
I think many has asked about how to center on the heart, and Mataji, yeah, thanks for bringing that awareness and the self. And one word I think you didn't talk about consciousness, is that purposeful, or the way I understand is when you talked about awareness of self, the consciousness because of which we all know we all exist. You are talking about that heart. So is that consciousness or the supreme consciousness or the only one consciousness which abides
Yes.
all of us?
Yes.
That's the heart you are talking about, not the physical heart.
Yes, correct. Yes, it is your very consciousness, pure consciousness. You can't understand it through a thought process. You can never conceive of it, but you can know it by being it. So that is why heart.
Thank you, Mataji. And we have basically come to the we have basically gone way over our allocated time for Q&A. Then I will just take one last question, which is from Sri Jogesh Panda, and after that we'll end this. And let me put the last question. He asks, Mataji, it would be inspiring to hear when and how you got inspired to follow the spiritual path and the path of sannyas. Could you please share your story with us? This could be a very long question answer, but it's up to you, Mataji.
I will very briefly tell you that I found deep interest in spiritual life from a very young age. So by the age of 13, I had read Bhagavad Gita, and by 14, I created my own copy of Bhagavad Gita, and I would practice a lot of meditation. And that concentration and sitting for long hours, this was very normal to me. So I don't know, some past, definitely something of the past unfolded itself. So at a young age only, I decided that the monastic vocation would be best for me because I really believed in the reality of this research. It preoccupied my mind most of the time that is it possible to do this? And then the interest in the Upanishads was very direct, like constantly I was at that. And I did very well in my studies only due to this, because I told you, meditation makes you deeply aware and utterly concentrated. So you will do well everywhere. So it was like a byproduct of my inner life. I did well in studies and everything. But then I decided that the monastic vocation is the most important thing for me because it provides me the means for this direct research, the ambience required for it, the holy atmosphere required for it. So I entered monastic life, and it has been a very joyful journey. I have never regretted my decision because it is the real ultimate adventure of human life to unravel our deepest level of consciousness. And the life is full of devotion to God. So it is a very joyful life, definitely.
Thank you, Mataji.
Dhanyavad, Mataji. So with the last question taken care, I have a request for all our listeners that we will like to send in a small a gift on behalf of all our listeners to Mataji as a Guru Dakshina, which has been a tradition with this group. And please send your amount by Jelly, and I have provided the address here, OSA Spiritual Forum at odisasociety.org. We'll also send it in the WhatsApp and emails subsequently, and we'll try to collect all the money in a week, and we'll forward it to Mataji's organization, which will gather from Jogesh Pandaji. And with that, I will request on behalf of Orissa Society of Americas, the treasurer, Mrs. Prachi Behra, to propose a vote of thanks for this gathering in the morning. Prachi, please.
Pranam. Pranam Mataji, and Pranam also to all the attendees who made time to attend this spiritual seminar series with Mataji. For those who may have joined a little bit late, we had a very good introduction by Sri Jogesh Panda, but for people who joined late, Mataji Pravarajika Divyananda Pranaji, she is a monastic member of Sri Sarada Math, She's an expert in areas of yoga and Vedanta. She's well versed in Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature, the Upanishads, and also the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. She has been the past principal of Nivedita Vidya Mandir, and she is currently an editor of the Samvit publication of the Sarada Math. She offers courses in yoga and Vedanta at IIT Delhi and various other universities, and she's also authored 2 books, one The Science of Happiness and one Self Discovery. Thank you, Mataji, for your presence today for the OSA Spiritual Forum. This spiritual forum was started early in 2021 by the Odisha Society of the Americas. We have had many Swamijis and Gurujis from various organizations, the New York Vedantic Society, Shinmay Mission, and various other organizations. We have had many of them come and share their knowledge and wisdom with us. I believe this is the first time we've had a Sadhvi Mataji speak on such a relevant topic today. And just like me, I think that all the members have benefited in various ways by listening to you. Personally, for me, this is probably a very, very relevant topic. I'll take 2 minutes to share my personal viewpoint or perspective on this. When I started out as a young person, as a child, as a young adult, my goal was very well defined. You have to study, you have to do well in your exam, you have to pass a certain grade, you have to graduate into the next level. And even though there were so many other things going on in life, the goal was well defined and the path to it was relatively well defined. And then came family life, as in a husband and in-laws, and the goals got more obscure. The paths to achieving those goals with new people, new personalities, it also got more obscure. Finally came kids, and everything was chaos. There is, completely different personalities, not rational, not logical to deal with, and they bring their own but not just personalities but toys and activities and books and things, and not just the goal but the path to the goal became cluttered with all these different objects and emotions. So today, dealing with family life, kids, chores, works, personal activities, entertainment, it is very difficult to even on a daily basis to figure out what my goal should be for the end of the day and how to get to it at the end of the day. I understand that all the totality of your knowledge and wisdom is not possible. It's not possible to give it to us in just a few minutes, but you have equipped us with a lot of steps to take for our daily lives, a lot of wisdom to pursue in our quest for the truth, quest for devotion. And your advice was practical and very concise and very I think well received by all the members, including myself. And on behalf of all of OSA people who were present today as your audience and people who will watch this video later, I want to thank you for everything that you for your presence and just to share everything that you did today, including some classes that the kids should take, how we can start our day, how we can focus on this as a family. And the heart center, of course, the focus of the heart center, that is something, it's not completely something that is new to me, but I think there are people of different knowledge here, people who are on different milestones in their spiritual journey, and I saw that this was a relevant topic for various people. So definitely, like Manoj Pandaji shared, it definitely hit a chord there. And we will, all of us, I speak for everybody, I think we will definitely explore this more as we go further along in our spiritual journey. Thank you on behalf of entire OSA and the OSA Executive Committee. Many members besides myself were present today. Pramod Mahapatraji and Akshay Reji, I think they participated actively in this forum. In addition, I think the OSA Spirituality Forum, Manoj Pandaji, Jogesh Pandaji, Gyano Dasji, I forget all the names, I won't be able to tell all the names, but they have been very instrumental in putting this whole seminar series together, in inviting various speakers such as you, Mataji, to share their knowledge with us. And this is probably end of one milestone for the OSA Spirituality Forum. So I thank you. I take this opportunity to thank you all also. Mataji, please stay connected with us, and we will have future opportunities on behalf of OSA where you can come and talk to us. So please stay connected with us, and we will try our best to stay connected with you and your words of wisdom that you have shared today. Pranam.
Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad, Prachi. So with this, we come to the end of today's session, and we'll just recite the Shanti Mantra before we conclude. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amrutangamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. So that's the conclusion for today's session.